School is killing our youth, right? Here's why. Number one, useless knowledge is being learned by these kids, right? From whatever, 5 years old to 18 years old, you are crammed the most useless knowledge in your head. Fake history, really bad books, and artificially slowed down ways of learning, right? Kids 4 years old, 5 years old in the 1700s were learning Latin, we're reading Shakespeare. Now we're having trouble spelling our own names. Something very bad has gone on. We learn facts and test score optimizations over principles, over wisdom, right? We've abandoned the trivium and the quadrivium. We've abandoned the core principles of learning in favor of a fact based rote memorization system to better create factory workers. It would be much better if kids had almost no specific knowledge about specific niche topics and didn't really have a large base of facts, but understood the principles of logic, grammar, astronomy, music, the basics of history. It's these sorts of things that create the base of the foundational learning, right? School shouldn't be trying to tell you everything about the world. It should be giving you the tools so that somebody can understand the world by themselves and give them the tools and the sort of the foundational literature to make sense of the world and go out and experience it, right, with their own being. And school, because you can't learn everything in the classroom. That's just a big flaw. You can't learn all this stuff in the classroom, and being stuck in a fluorescent lit classroom with the nanny state looking over you for 8 hours, that's not a conducive way to actually learn material. Number two, and this one's interesting and controversial probably, is everything is morality, and we have this very values neutral way of learning school where we try to like not have an obvious moral bend to the schooling, but that's like brutally wrong in how you should be training these kids. Everybody, regardless if it's implicit or explicit, is influencing you with their own moral bend. And when you have a values neutral education, all that means is whatever the state wants, whatever the state is prescribing. So these teachers and these administrators and whatnot are able to design curriculum that is just basically directly in line with whatever the state wants to tell you. And so you aren't learning. It's not a values neutral education. That's just a total lie. And so these kids aren't actually developing a moral backbone. You're not developing a moral curriculum for anybody. And so with moral decline comes societal decline, comes economic decline. All these things are precipitated on the fact that our morals have been crumbling the past 100 years or so. This is a big problem. Schools have to get explicit about the founding stock of this country, which has been Christianity, which has been the influence of God, which has been, religious texts and the Bible. We don't even read the Bible in school, the foundational Western book, the book that everything else worth reading comes from. We don't learn anything about it. We learn barely anything about Christianity. We learn barely anything about Islam. We learn barely anything about Judaism. We learn barely anything about any moral system. It's an absolute catastrophe, and no wonder why depression, nihilism, drug use is skyrocketing, because kids don't know what morals is. They think morals are like a luxury thing that you don't really need to actually have, because the world, it's all about realism, and it's all about the socialist realism and there's all this crap. So yeah, teach morality, or your kids will just be taught by the state. It's as simple as that. And yeah, it's one thing, it's parents' job to teach morality, but at the same time, the parents are giving up their kids to this institution. So on one hand, the parents are complicit with all this going on. And yes, some of it may be out of ignorance of just not knowing this sort of framing, but they're just ignorant at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it's on them. So take your kids out. 3, it trains you to be bored. When I was in school, this is I was doing some writing about my time in school the other day, and I realized that it is not healthy for a child to be bored for 6 to 8 hours a day. Now, it's, it is good to understand what boredom is and to have a relationship with it, but children, you're in your most prime growing developmental years. Your brain is constantly changing, your body is constantly changing. This is the time where you need stimulation, where you need challenge, you need play, you need back and forth, you need extremes of everything, and you don't get that. You get put in an apathetic state. Your state doesn't change, you're bored, you're at this low level, you're told to keep your head down, you're not told to talk, right? Any sort of acting out is really punished poorly in a very feminine way. It's just not a good place for a guy to learn how to develop himself. It's just not a good place. It trains you to be so apathetic about life. And that's why I think so many kids, like we talked about earlier, they turn to drugs, they turn to video games, right? Because school is so damn boring. School is so damn, you feel it's pointless. You just feel it's pointless from the get-go, right? The kids ask, right? Every kid asks, "When am I going to use this?" And they never get a real answer because you don't actually use it, right? You get the platitudes, but you get outside for 1 year and you realize I don't use anything that I learned in school. I use basic writing and that's it, right? Stuff you can learn online very, very easily these days. So it just trains you to be bored, trains you to be obedient, and it's just not a good state for a kid to be in. It's definitely not conducive to learning and growing and being oneself. Number 4, you're inside for a big part of the day, right? This is awful for many reasons, but one of them is, the lack of sunlight and the lack of, you're losing out on sunlight. So you're losing out on vitamin D, the sun's rays, the fresh air, all that stuff. You're not walking for a huge part of the day. You walk to classes and whatnot, but, recesses being whatever, 10 to 15 minutes, criminal, right? You're outside for, if your school is good, if you have a good school, you're probably able to go outside for an hour a day, right? And this is assuming that these are like good weather schools, right? If you're blizzarded, I get it, right? I don't have a solution for you right now, but the fact of the matter is, you're not able to get outside and walk around that's when your brain works best is while walking in fresh air in the sun, right? So and then equally bad, you go inside this room with fluorescent lights, which screw up your biochemistry and put you in a depressed, lower vibrational state. It's just not a good system all around. And also too, sitting for that long, not good, right? You're at these desks, they're uncomfortable. It's fitting children into a predetermined system versus trying to build a system around what works best for children and teenagers, right? I bet the school system being so screwed up like this is a big reason why all these kids have so many behavioral developmental problems at the moment, right? It's autism has become an epidemic. It's real. It's a big part of it. And number 5, last one, no reading. Think, when you're in high school, what books did you read? Right? And you could probably pick out 12, right? We all have the ones. The Catcher in the Rye, How to Kill To Kill a Mockingbird. There's the meme curriculum that we all get. But were you incentivized to read great works? No. Were you incentivized to read the Western canon? No. Did you even know what the Western canon is? No. I thought the Western canon was a 20 millimeter gun that fired an iron ball. I did not know it was a collection of books that make up the foundations of Western literature. And the fact you don't read great books, you don't read the Bible, you don't even know who Socrates and Plato are, you don't read Dante, you don't read any of the saints, you read nothing, and all of a sudden, you get out in the world and nothing makes sense to you. Well, of course nothing makes sense to you because you don't know what all this stuff is based on. All these psyops, all these turns of phrases, how things work in the world, how they don't want you to see these certain things because they know that if you read If you read the Western canon of books and you understand the foundational literature, you understand Dostoevsky, you understand morality, you understand Shakespeare, you understand the Bible, you understand the biblical metaphors, you understand Christ rising from the grave, right? You understand all these, then all their psyops, all their fear campaigns, all of their media tricks and lies goes out the window because you can see clearly through that. So, not reading, I know why they don't do it. It's smart for them, obviously, to make you not want to read. But it's incredibly evil at the same time, and it's really stupid. Now, with all these together, there's only one solution, in my opinion, which is going to be homeschooling. Homeschooling is 100% coming back. I think it's going to be a massive industry over the next 10 years because, things with like certain shot mandates and certain, political things inside the classroom and whatnot, along with all this other stuff that's just like not even, it's not even a learning center. It's an indoctrination center. It's not a learning center. With all these other things, the smart parents are going to be taking their children out and taking their learning into their own hands, whether that's in solo or in small groups with other families in their community. But this is not going to last much longer. I think that we're going to see the largest exodus of public school over these next 10 years. And this is going to further the divide between the quote on the Zoomers that have made it and the Zoomers that are not going to make it, right? There's a Zoomer right now who's addicted to screens, addicted to porn, probably on some sort of drug, who's in school, going down the system, and he's not asking questions, and his parents aren't asking questions, and his parents, in fact, are enforcing and rejoicing at the current system that's going on right now. And there's another Zoomer who's getting fed organic food, he's not going to be in public school, he's going to be homeschooled with real information. He's going to learn a completely different view, and he's going to have a completely different mind than the other kid. And both of these kids at 18 are going to go out into the world and try to succeed. I think it's going to get very good for some people, but also very bad for others. So with that in mind, pray for everybody. This is a really whack time with schooling. Our preconceptions and our view of what schooling is rapidly falling apart. And so we need to just pray for everybody and make sure that we're building these parallel systems and we're putting out this knowledge to everybody that there are other ways, and that you as a parent and you as a student, if you're watching this or whatever, or even if you're like me, right? You're out of school, right? You can take your learning in your own hands. Learning is a self process, right? If you got out of school and you feel like you don't learn anything, you still got 60 years of your life or whatever, so 80 years of your life to learn everything you want to learn. So make learning a habit, make learning something you find joy from, learn things you want to learn, and act on what you learn. Build a beautiful life. My name's Tiger. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, do what you want to do. I love you all. We'll talk soon.